I was talking about the success at the Justice Department, but the success of Tom Homan, which is, I think, reaching the whole country, is startling, startling, absolutely startling. Um, Yesterday he just decided to use comparison of the last of the would be, I guess, Tuesday, the two no the Monday numbers. I'm sorry, these would be the Monday number. Wrong, Sunday numbers. Okay, so now take a look at the board there for a second. In the Southwest, 229 people came across the border. I imagine all of whom were arrested and put in and detained. Only six, over the whole time that Trump has been in office so far, only 6% of the number that have come in have been allowed in to the United States. Biden used to allow 70% in, and on much bigger numbers. The average number daily under Biden, and that's in those same places, was 11,000. 229 versus 11,000, and 70% of the 11,000 got into the United States. If the average statistic worked, 6% of the 229 got in. Would you say he's already gotten control of the border? Now, I told you in advance that would be the easiest thing to do. But when I told you that, I didn't think they would do it this completely, this quickly. Wow. Wow. Now, I want to make another point because it completely dispels a piece of propaganda and brainwashing. The Democrats, you even get a lot of Republicans on this, like the middle of the road Republicans who want immigration reform and da-da-da-da-da-da. And that is that the people that are coming in, right? The people that are coming in are coming in for work, and they're coming in to handle things that we can't handle. Well, the biggest problem in our economy right now is not the unemployment rate. It's the number of people that are out of the workforce. It's at a staggering number. It's never recovered since the pandemic much. It's at historic proportions. And that's worse than unemployment. You're doing the same thing with them. You're giving them welfare and you're paying for them, and they're producing nothing. But the people who are on unemployment are theoretically supposed to be looking for a job. The people who are on the completely unemployed list are the people who stopped looking for a job. They're content with the welfare. That number keeps growing, or it kept growing under Biden. That's a frightening number. And that's where most of these current illegal aliens enter into it. They are not. This is not the migration flow of the 80s, 70s, 80s into the 90s, where a large number were coming in to do specific work, sometimes on a seasonal basis. And yes, criminals came in, because you can easily mix them in, right? You could easily, the minute you have a border that's porous at all, criminals will take advantage of it, and terrorists. But we didn't have a porous border. We had no border. That's how you get numbers like that. 229 to 11,000. I mean, that's completely, it gives you an idea of how completely unlawful, completely un-American, completely destructive the Biden regime was. They're trying to destroy the country. They're trying to destroy our nationality by doing that. You don't have a border. I mean, you have 15 million, 20 million coming in who have no respect for your country or the values of your country, you don't have a country anymore. They destroy it. And the idea that there wasn't enough room in the shelters, well, the shelters were empty. When those 11,000 were coming in, the shelters were empty. Everybody was just catch and release, catch and release. Now it's catch, return, or detain, with a few exceptions. And they're building the detention facilities. They keep these numbers down like that. I don't know. San Diego had none, zero for a couple of days. Nobody came in. A lot of them were coming in as part of the CBP-1 program, and the reality is that program was turned down. Tom says he's got about 600,000 illegal aliens that they can account for who already have criminal convictions since they came in as part of the Biden Destroy America program. So that's his focus in terms of deporting people is on those people as the most dangerous. Now, of course, as he picks them up, he will pick up others who maybe aren't as dangerous, but still should be returned. So you see what happens when they tell you you're going to be arrested and it's going to mean something when you come to the border illegally? They don't come in. Kristi Noem did something really very, very nice and very, very classy. She apologized to the Border Patrol people who were improperly disciplined, castigated, and never apologized for being falsely accused of whipping migrants who actually, it was shown, never did that. And she went there and delivered an official apology. This is the way you increase the morale. And I told you, I thought that this would happen quickly with the Border Patrol and ICE, and they've been held back from doing their job for 4 years. Can you imagine how enthusiastic they are about it? Now, here's another interesting suggestion from a guy who has a right to make suggestions because he is really producing. Tom Homan, that is. Tom says that Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez should be investigated and, if possible, prosecuted for basically telling people how to break the law, explaining to them how to break the law. Know your rights in case of ICE. And she describes ICE raids as political tactics. What's political? It's against the law to come into this country without approval. It's true just about every civilized country. It's true of every civilized country. Idiot, communist. And then she gives them things that they can say that are lies. So he's asked the Justice Department to look at what's the line there, that where you become an aider and abettor of a criminal. Let's find out. I mean, as far as finding out, let's not speculate on it. Let's actually find out. You should know that some of the numerous people that Biden commuted and pardoned are coming back to, let us say, bite us. One, Johnny Perez, was just arrested. He was given a pardon, let out with 2,500 other convicted federal criminals. They were all commuted on one day, January 17. That was Clean Out the Prisons Day. So the Democrats could have more people who vote for them, because given what the party stands for, they, of course, dominate the criminal vote. criminals sort of are attracted to each other. So Johnny Perez was just arrested in Times Square in a around-the-clock crack peddling operation. Thank you. We'll find out how many more you gave us. There are a whole bunch of others already been arrested. I just don't have a list of them. But I'm sure it's going to get worse than that. And that's added to the 15 to 20 million he let in, and we don't know who they are, of which 600,000 are convicted criminals already. But how many of them haven't we caught yet? And how many of the ones that came in are criminals? There'd be no way of knowing because even the ones that we stopped at the border, many of them we couldn't vet. I mean, the people from Venezuela, you can't vet. Maduro's not going to give you their criminal record. He's going to send you his criminals instead. So Chairman Xi had a meeting on Monday, and he brought together all of the tech giants, of the people who ran the tech companies, but particularly those who attempted until a couple of years ago to try to run them more like private businesses. Now they were all shut down and either put in jail or put in exile. But he brought them all in because his economy is sucking. His economy is in terrible shape. Look at a big smile on the murderer's face. There they are. Did you notice that applause? And they're all taking notes, right? He's not even talking, and they're all taking notes. Take notes. Take notes. Yes, you must take notes. I don't know. So he got them all together, including the famous Jack Ma, who started Alibaba, and a number of really tech innovations for China, who's been basically missing, incommunicado, unable to find since October of 2020, when he made a speech talking about how there should be more scope given to the private companies. Oh, what kind of communist is that? Get out of here, Jack. We haven't seen Jack since then, but Jack showed up appropriately clapping when the sign in the back of Mr. Xi said, clap or have your hands chopped off. And there was a real concern that a lot of the devastation to the economy of China, which at least as reported, they reported as being isolated to the real estate sector, has really just completely dominated other parts of the economy, and that Chairman Xi is enormously afraid that he's not going to be able to win the technology war with the U.S., which, after all, is the war with the U.S. Now, Alibaba shares, just on the discussion, the statement that Jack Ma was going to show up, went up 4.3% on the New York Stock Exchange. Why the hell we have him on the New York Stock Exchange is a good question, isn't it? Why are we helping a red Chinese company raise money? We like to hurt ourselves. And this also has been exacerbated by the panic when President Trump added another 10% on the tariffs that were already in place. Remember, one of the things Biden didn't do, but never mentioned it, is he didn't really change the tariffs on China. With all the complaints that tariffs are terrible, tariffs are awful, tariffs are anything, he maintained the tariffs on China. May have even raised them at times, although I think they were down a little when Trump came in. But now they're up 10% more than they have been since Trump was in office. So he wants now a united front to avoid capital flight. Now, honestly, I don't think he's going to get a united front. I mean, the mere fact those people were sitting there clapping doesn't mean they don't know that today he can say, oh, your businesses are all protected, which he did. And tomorrow he can seize them all because he's done it before. So they'll stay because, my God, their families will be killed or they'll be killed or whatever. But the reality is you're not going to get the enthusiastic support that you get in a free market economy when you do something like this. So there's going to be a case going to the Supreme Court that you should really watch very, very closely. The White House, the head of the White House Personnel Office, which, at a time like this is probably the busiest office in Washington, right? With all the people coming in and people leaving, and is headed by Sergio Gore, and he fired the lawyer who heads the Office of Special Counsel, Hampton Dillinger. And Hampton Dillinger has brought a case, one of the many trying to block President Trump. And the case is one that challenges the removal because this special counsel is appointed under a statute that gives him, I think, a 5-year term, and it puts in that he can only be removed for misconduct. And he was removed just at the will of the president, without any list of things that he did wrong. So, of course, the District of Columbia issued an injunction, a temporary restraining order is really what they issued, until a hearing on February 26 can be held. And so now the government has to keep Dillinger. Dillinger, not Dillinger. Or is it Dillinger? I don't know. So they have to keep him. Well, the government took that up to the D.C. Circuit. And of course, the D.C. Circuit, what do you think they did? They rejected Trump's appeal. The same people who affirmed all of the convictions of all of the J6 people, including the many that were convicted illegally, only to be told that by the Supreme Court after they had served some of their sentence. If any court needs to be investigated, it's the D.C. District and the D.C. Circuit for a massive violation of civil and human rights that really disgraced our court system and our country. And never should have happened. And I think you're going to find when you get all the film and all the things that have been held back by Pelosi and her gang and McConnell, and you're going to find out a lot about that I knew on the first night. Just go back and watch my podcast from, about January 9, what did I say? 8 or 9 of 2021. Did it in Washington, D.C. I think you're going to find that everything I said there after, years and years, 3 years of being accused of being a whatever traitor, Russian spy, everything I said there is true. In fact, you're going to find that everything I told you is true. So, the Trump administration has now gone to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to hear it and determine, can the government remove, that's a very interesting issue. Can they remove him temporarily? Because eventually there has to be a trial on this. This is all like, so the government fired him. He went to court and got a restraining order that it's not effective until, the temporary restraining order is not effective until there's a hearing. And then at the hearing, if they continue it, it'll be not effective until there's a trial. And what they're saying is that he doesn't have a likelihood of success on the merits because the president has every right to fire him. Now, the complication here is that language there that says that the president has to show reasons to fire him. And there's an old Supreme Court case, Humphrey's Executor is the name of the case. It goes back to 1935. That kind of suggests that Congress can do that. But in recent Supreme Court decisions, including one in 2020, the Supreme Court upheld Trump doing exactly the same thing to one of the commissioners of the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, firing him, even though it had language for cause, and the court held that the president has the inherent power to do that. Now, and they distinguished the Humphrey case by saying it's different when you're talking about an entire panel or you're just talking about one particular appointee. Now, I don't think, and two justices, of course, the two smarters, Thomas and Alito, dissented and said it applies to anybody. You can't force the president to keep people he doesn't want. And I got to tell you, there's an overriding constitutional intent. It's the same reason why the Senate was given the power to confirm, but not the power to fire or require the president to keep. So, the Supreme Court, the Senate just confirmed Pete Hegseth, right? Let's say the president wants to remove Pete. Can't imagine he would. I'm just using poor Pete as an example. And Congress comes along and says, hey, we feel differently about him now. We had to confirm him. So before you fire him, you got to come to us and ask us. The founding fathers specifically rejected that and said that a president should not ever be hampered with an employee that he doesn't want. But how can he govern? It's one thing to say you can have an outside review of the qualifications. It's another thing to say you can second guess the president's judgment on getting rid of the people that are executing his powers. So I think he's going to win this, and it's not going to resolve every one of these cases. Also, whoever represented the government in the case, I don't know if we have a solicitor general yet, but whoever did made an excellent point of how this is a concerted effort by the Democrats to just stop the government. They're just trying to get basically trying to get a temporary restraining order on the entire Trump administration. They've got about 40 going on, and you get a liberal judge, and they just sign the damn thing. I would say, based on Supreme Court precedent, in order to get a temporary restraining order, you have to show that you will have irreparable damage, and number two, that you have a likelihood of success on the merits. In other words, you've got a better chance of winning than the other side. Well, first of all, he doesn't. The Supreme Court decided this in 2020. He's got no likelihood of success unless I think you get all six conservatives on this one. It's so obvious in terms of executive power. And number two, there's no irreparable harm. So if you fire him and it turns out he shouldn't have been fired, you got to pay him his salary plus probably incredible damages. Unless having that title is like irreparable. So this is a ridiculous decision of a court that is a ridiculous court, the D.C. Circuit and the D.C. District, particularly the District. Circuit's not as bad, but the District is bad. And the Circuit is bad because they never took charge of the atrocities of January 6th. We're going to take a short break, and we'll be right back. Here we are, pretty much at the beginning of the process here at this pristine, I call it a laboratory. It's not like a factory, it's like a hospital. This is the beginning of the process for roasting. Deep green, very good quality. Most people don't use this quality. We deal with small farmers because we like to know who we're dealing with. They give us the highest quality, all organic, non-GMO. You should know all Arabica beans, no Robusto, all Arabica. They're going to go into the roaster, and it'll get roasted for about 20 minutes or so.
Oh my goodness, look at these. My goodness. You're going to want to specially order these. This is what goes into Rudy's Coffee.
Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal. 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month.
Wow.
Including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
This is Rudy Giuliani on America's Mayor Live. You know, the president made any number of great appointments, and I'm not going to even mention any of them right now, because if I mention one, I should mention all of them. And when the news requires it, we'll talk about the ones that, you know, like we've talked a lot about the vice president, and we will in a little while too, about what he's done in basically trying to straighten out Europe. I mean, that was definitely, I would say, the administration. I call it tough love for Europe. They better respond to it, otherwise they're going to be meaningless. But the most important appointment he made, as far as I'm concerned, and so you could say, I'm going to say Kash Patel, and the reason I'm going to say that, and I'm going to thank all the people that stuck with him, because he is a good friend and he is, most importantly, a great patriot. So I will tell you that I think this is the most important appointment, and not because of personality or anything else. I'm friends with a lot of them. That is the single most important thing from my point of view, of course, right? To straighten out the FBI. Now you'd say, well, the whole Justice Department, yeah, but already they've done that, and it's worked pretty good and pretty fast. And I saw the Justice Department get reformed under Edward Levy. I worked for Edward Levy, Attorney General Edward Levy, in the post-Watergate reformations. I've seen it be. Of course, it's hard to do, but it's a little easier. The FBI is very, very tough. First of all, the depth of the corruption, of what's wrong with it, the political corruption, is hard to measure. At one time, when it first started, I would say it was just a Washington headquarters, not even the Washington field office. But then when you see the atrocities they carried out during the Biden administration, and you see the inappropriate ways in which FBI agents acted, it's more than that. It's more than just a few at the headquarters. You couldn't have brought 1,000 cases and made this crazy J6 thing, which was completely exaggerated. You know, like it was like Pearl Harbor, it was like September 11, it was like Civil War. Yeah, it was like Nancy Pelosi trying to create a movie for her daughter. That's what it really was. And maybe a couple of jackasses on our side and a lot of instigators on theirs, including lots of Antifa people who haven't even been found yet. And the FBI inside and turning down the National Guard. I mean, come on. So this has got to be straightened out. I mean, the FBI has been off doing all these other things. And you say to yourself, well, is that the reason why crime is so bad? They're not paying attention to the real things they should be? When your biggest investigation is J6, something suffers. In an agency, I think they have about 15,000 agents. I know you think it's much bigger. The police department in New York is twice as big in terms of uniformed officers. Think about that. Think about it. And we used to even be bigger before de Blasio defunded us. Never been restored. Nobody talks about that. $1 billion out. So, Kash Patel, that appointment, critical, and God bless him. I mean, he's going to do a terrific job, and I believe he's going to do, what these couple that have really out front here have really gotten off to a great start, like Injustice and Musk, and he's going to be right out there straightening it out. Or like Homan, and what an ally for Homan and everybody else. The FBI sets the pace for federal law enforcement. So you're going to see changes in all of them, and you're going to see them a lot more appropriate and a lot more aggressive in the right areas, meaning against real criminals and not political prosecutions. So good luck to him. This man is a real patriot and a tough guy and a strong guy and a very honest guy. So there's real outrage. I mentioned this on my earlier show, but I want you all to make sure you hear this. There's real outrage over some of these countries when the aliens are returned. There's like a lot of outrage that that the illegal aliens are handcuffed. There might even be some who have shackles on their feet. They might. I'm not sure. It does say handcuffed. It says some have been handcuffed and some have been shackled. I think they mean on the feet. But in any event, India objected when 104 restrained criminal aliens were returned, and Colombia, President Communist Comrade Gustavo Petro. Well, he objected for a little while, and then he started kissing Trump's backside. But he did complain that he turned back the first plane load because they were handcuffed. Well, let's start with the fact that so was Peter Navarro, and he was a misdemeanor. These guys committed a crime. And a lot of them are the focus is on ones who were criminals. I mean, in addition to the crime of being here illegally. And sometimes extraordinarily dangerous criminals. But what a terrible guy Trump is. I mean, Trump is a Nazi. Then they find out. I want you to look at my screen there. This all came about because there was a big riot by Haitians on a plane that was going back to Haiti. They ripped the plane apart and they beat the heck out of the ICE agents. And then there were a couple of others like that. And Biden administration said, put them in handcuffs, put them in leg irons. So the Nazi here, I don't know, guys. The Nazi may be in your political party. This reminds me of when they got all upset about Trump putting people in cages, and the cages were built and completely occupied when Biden was vice president and Obama was president. So they don't stop before they criticize to find out the truth, because the truth is meaningless to a partisan Democrat. Well, I think that what the administration is doing with Europe is Europe's last chance. I call it tough love for Europe. European countries have been declining maybe for two centuries, and living off the past. People don't go to Europe for anything really now. They go to Europe for something 3, 4, 5, 6, maybe even 2,000 years old, Rome, right? They really, I guess, were devastated by the First and Second World Wars and never recovered, really never recovered their esprit de corps. And now, by allowing in massive amounts of illegals, they are destroying their culture. They're destroying Western civilization, which was the glory of the world and the reason we are who we are. And I think Vance going there and administering right to their face tough love, telling them the truth. I mean, gosh almighty, Bush 43 told me this when he came back from a meeting about how weak most of the leaders are in Europe. I mean, it's obvious. I mean, they can't. Well, never mind. There's plenty. I don't even think the Democrat presidents would disagree. I think if you got old Bill Clinton and you sat him down and you asked him what he thought of England, not England, England would have been the only one, because Blair was the last, believe it or not, even though a Labor guy, the last really tough prime minister of the United Kingdom. However, he got caught up on, I guess, on the tough side of the Iraq thing, right? But weapons of mass destruction, which I wonder, given the fact that Saddam Hussein would make it appear as if he had weapons of mass destruction. It's understandable, and I don't give much understanding to our intelligence agencies since what they did to me, but it's understandable why they'd be misled. I mean, they were misled on purpose. So, yep, big mistake, worth really looking at. You want to be judgmental about it, yes. If you want to suspend judgment a little bit, that's okay too. But in any event, well, I mean, Germany is the prime example of a country that's been completely flipped by Merkel. There was an enormously productive, hardworking country, the best example of what could happen in post-war Europe. And now it's become pretty much a basket case, with other countries in Europe surpassing it and overwhelmed. Look what happened in Munich. Overwhelmed by Islamic terrorists, which they've let in, pretty much the way Biden let them into the United States. And the country is rebelling. And all of the parties that oppose that now are Nazi parties. And they've been overusing Nazi the way the Democrats overuse racism. So it doesn't mean anything anymore. Racism is what you call someone, if you're a Democrat, that you can't debate on the merits. You call him a racist. The guy could be black, but you call him a racist anyway. If you're a black Republican, you're a racist. Well, if you oppose the incumbent government, which really, a lot of them are like fascist governments. If you oppose them, you're a Nazi. So Vance basically told them, we defended you because we were defending freedom. We're not going to defend you if you don't have any free speech. What are we defending? We're defending a contradiction of our principles, an ultimate destruction of our principles. There are too many countries like you. And now we know what it's like to have free speech abridged, because we had it happen in our country under the Biden fascist regime. Well, they got all upset about this. Oh, my goodness. But the people loved it. People in Germany are going to vote probably for the right-wing parties. including ones that they say are Nazi, where that charge may be no better than calling Trump a Nazi or calling me a Nazi or calling anybody that you don't like a Nazi. And there may be some truth to it in some of them, but there's a heck of a lot of exaggeration involved in it and a real attempt to use it to manipulate so that you can keep power where you're the one acting like a Nazi. I mean, the most amazing thing was Margaret Brennan, who is somehow, I mean, they should just get her off the CBS payroll and have the Democrat Party pay for her, or maybe one of the communist parties. Does she not know history even? I mean, I do mind if they're left-wing ideologues. I really find it completely idiotic. Well, we'll take a short break and we'll be right back.
Are you ready? Are you ready for some action?
I'm ready for action.
Get the Elite TV plan only through the portal, 218 channels, and it's only $69.95 a month,
Wow.
including your free portal.
That's cheaper than everyone else.
Your favorite sports, movies, news,
Wow.
even daytime dramas. We're talking about ESPN, OAN, Newsmax,
Wow.
channels you can't get anymore in certain areas.
Compared to the competition, this is a way better deal.
Endless selection. Not to mention all the free music channels. There's over 700 premium and classic movies all ready to go.
Wow.
Plus, they got catch-up TV that allows you to go back and watch what you've missed or want to watch again. Cut your cable in half and get twice as much for free.
Way more channels for half the cost.
After the first year, the subscription then drops to $57.95 monthly,
Wow.
where you change or upgrade anytime. Go to QUXNow.com and get yours today. Use promo code RUDY. Act fast.
Okay. Welcome back to America's Mayor Live. So I was talking about Margaret Brennan, who purportedly, works for CBS, but really works for the Democrat National Committee or the Committee for One World or one of these things. Listen to this absolutely ill-educated, uneducated statement about how the Nazis were created by free speech.
In a country where free speech was weaponized to conduct a genocide. And he met with the head of a political party that has far-right views and some historic ties to extreme groups. The context of that was changing the tone of it. And you know that the censorship was specifically about the right.
No, I have to disagree with you. Free speech was not used to conduct a genocide. The genocide was conducted by an authoritarian Nazi regime that happened to also be genocidal because they hated Jews and they hated minorities and they hated those that they had a list of people they hated, but primarily the Jews. There was no free speech in Nazi Germany. There was none. There was also no opposition in Nazi Germany. They were a sole and only party that governed that country. So that's not an accurate reflection of history.
Well, he was standing.
Back to you.
Well, I don't even know how to comment on that. First of all, the first thing the Nazi Party did when it came into power is eliminate free speech, Margaret. And it was eliminated all through Hitler's term. If you said the wrong things, they killed you. That's like not free speech. If you said anything that the Nazi government felt was harmful to it, they either put you in prison or they killed you. Yeah, they killed 6 million Jews. They killed 6 million other people in their concentration camp. And they killed a lot of their own people. We don't even know how many. They go into a street and shoot them down because they were speaking against the government. That's called denial of free speech by murder. That's the Nazis. Their genocide didn't happen because there was a free speech. Their genocide happened because there wasn't free speech. In fact, it was pretty well covered up for a long time. because of lack of free speech. So you're absolutely wrong, like incredibly wrong, like really stupid. When you think about the fact that many people never even heard of, even in Germany, there were people that didn't know completely what was happening. Now, we say they should have known, or they could have known, or they may have known, but largely it was covered up the way Democrats cover everything up. Gosh, when we're right, Margaret, don't go changing history on us. I mean, I know they do it at all the Ivy League schools, but you're not going to do it with really intelligent people. What a disgrace. I mean, what the hell is she doing on the air anyway? I mean, she had a hard time even asking the question. I mean, she's not even articulate. They probably pay her like $3 or $4 million to do that. They probably pay her $3 or $4 million to basically repeat communist left-wing lies and propaganda. The genocide was caused by free speech. Wow. I wonder what Jefferson and Adams and Franklin and Hamilton, Madison, what they say about that. They must be up in heaven going like, oh my God. You know, we told them this would happen. We told them there could be the tyranny of the majority. But this isn't even the tyranny of the majority. They're not the majority. We are. The Republicans are the plurality now in America. We'll soon be the majority. But we don't impose our views on others. It was Biden who put his political opponents in prison, many of them. Trump didn't. Well, I thought, as I said, Vance's speech was terrific. I thought Defense Secretary Higson, told the NATO members in Brussels the week before, he kind of got them ready for it. Leaders of our European allies should take primary responsibility for the defense of the continent. You're damn right they should. And they better, otherwise they're not going to be defended. And then we can have allies who can help us, like Israel. Suppose we had like 10, 12 Israels. China could go suck wind, right? You multiply Israel even by 2. I'd take 2 more Israels and America, and I'd feel real comfortable. 10 more, they would just have to stop. They'd have to stop their arms race with us. If Europe, which ultimately, if you put the whole thing together, the European Union, about the size of the U.S., right? If they had all 5% of their GDP invested in modern defense, and we were allied the way we should be around Western civilization and the values of Western civilization, this world would be able to enjoy freedom for the indefinite future. And we already have most of Eastern Europe. And, what I'm talking about could happen just with Eastern Europe, as those countries like Poland and Lithuania and Latvia and the Czech Republic, and Hungary, as they come out of, not even out of, as their economies grow and grow and grow, their dedication to free speech is real, because they know what it's like to be without it within a generation or two. So there are possibilities of getting there. And I think this is a wonderful message for Europe. They don't want to, Western Europe shouldn't be left behind. What the heck? I mean, people are going to get tired of going and seeing the old relics, and then they're going to have nobody going there. Particularly if you get arrested for what you think. A guy got arrested in Great Britain because they searched his house and they found neo-Nazi stuff in his house. He didn't say anything. He didn't do anything. They put him in jail because he had a toxic ideology. What do they do? Look at his brain? Do you know how dangerous that is? Do you know how inconsistent that is with a liberal democracy? 100%. Do you know how close that is to being a Nazi government when you put people in jail for their thoughts because their thoughts disagree with your politics? Of course, that's exactly what Biden was doing to us. I don't know if they put anybody just for their thoughts. They hadn't thought of that. But Jack Smith would have gotten there at some point. What a disgraceful prosecutor he was. Thank God he's gone. So in Britain, they've arrested people for criticizing Islamic religion. I bet they've never arrested anybody for criticizing the Christian religion. I bet. I think they give them medals. Britain is like one of the least religious countries in Europe now. I don't know when the hell that happened. They arrested people for opposing homosexuality, which, as far as I'm concerned, you shouldn't oppose, but you don't go to jail for it. Now, you hurt somebody, you go to jail. You hit somebody, you go to jail. You yell at somebody, I'm sorry. They yell at me all the time, and they yell all kinds of lies at me. But I can't have them put in jail for it. I don't even want to. I just feel sorry for them. Sometimes I respond and say, particularly if it's in New York, it's a shame you're just a product of a very poor educational system. Or I should say, you've been educated by the Communist Teachers Union. But Nicholas Brock was the guy who was convicted of thinking the wrong things. They called it toxic ideology. It was based on the contents of the home he shared with his mother in Maidenhead, Berkshire. Well, I think it was none too soon that Vance made that speech. And as Professor Turley points out and paraphrases in his article in the Post, Vance argued that if we are to defeat our foreign adversaries, we must first protect those rights that distinguish us from them. That's the, by and large, not always, but by and large, and particularly where things are as close as they are here, the army and the nation that's fighting for its principles wins because they have much higher morale. And that's another way of saying what both the vice president and Pete said. And I do think, despite all of the anger about it, I think it got to the people. I think it really did. I think a lot of people in Germany say, we agree with that. I know a lot of people in England and France and Italy agree with that. And many of them, even during the first Trump administration, would say to me, I wish we had a strong prime minister or president like that. So this idea that he's disliked so much abroad, it's the paper, it's the press. It's not the people. I'm going to be over in Italy and a few other places next week, and we'll see. I'll just, of course, you'll say, well, they won't tell me the truth. Like heck, they won't. I've been known to have been yelled at. Will Trump's actions wake Europe up or destroy the transatlantic alliance? Well, that was asked by Walter Russell Mead, and it's a good question, Mr. Mead, but either way, we win. If it strengthens the alliance, we got unbeatable combination. If it doesn't, we got really useless drags on us, and we can look for much more productive partners like Eastern Europe, like Japan, like South Korea, like Taiwan. Taiwan is critical to our sophisticated little Taiwan, under pressure from China from the day it started, is critical to the supercomputer. Critical to it, which is why for all the dancing around we do, we have to defend it. We don't have a choice unless we want to make China the king of the world. And as several articles in different newspapers today who took the time to interview German people, I don't know, maybe Vance could be the new chancellor. I think they liked that speech. And what and where better to have it than Munich? I pointed that out on the earlier show also. Munich stands for appeasement. It's in Munich that that Chamberlain caved into Hitler, gave him the Sudetenland in Czechoslovakia on the theory that that was German speaking, even though it was part of Czechoslovakia. Czechoslovakia argued against it, but Hitler promised, that's it, no more. Chamberlain came back. There's the picture of him and the real Hitler. And there's the real reason why Hitler was able to take the continent, Chamberlain, who appeased him, promised him that he wouldn't take anything else. Let's take a look at that's Chamberlain coming back to England, holding up the agreement, not worth the paper it's written on. And he and those other putzes there, like the putzes we have, jerks, elitist, looking so important, announced we have peace in our time, which lasted less than a year, when Hitler took the rest of Czechoslovakia and then the rest of Europe. We don't want that to happen again. The Democrats don't seem to have learned a lesson from it, or they're working on a different playbook called Marxism, one or the other, or both. So thank goodness that we have President Trump and Vice President Vance and these people who understand the value of American democracy, justice, freedom, of our incredible structure of government that is constantly under attack. So I can't close without mentioning the airplane crash, which is the oddest thing I've ever seen, with the plane turning over once it hits the ground. But now that you look at it and see it, you realize how it happened, I guess. We thank God that no one was killed and no one was seriously, I don't know if seriously injured, but I haven't heard of anyone seriously. Look at that. Look at it turn over now. Gosh, that's weird. Isn't it hard to believe, Stephen, that nobody died?
Yeah, well, it looks like a
Well,
pretty
well,
bad wreck.
particular-
car. I mean,
What happened to the fire? Did it go out? Because when you see the people being extracted, there doesn't seem to be any fire in the background. And the fire would have killed people. The fire, you think it was just momentary? The fire was just like an immediate blast, and then it didn't, like the plane did not burn completely. Right?
Yeah, well, it's also very cold and icy out there too. I mean,
So it put it out?
here's a did it? Well, it looks like
Here, look at that. Look at that on the board there. You can take a look at it straight. Look, you don't see any fire. It turned over completely, right? It's turned over completely. We saw the fire on the video, right? But at this point, that must have been like almost like a spark from hitting the ground.
here's a good one.
Well, yeah, watch that, and then we'll go back.
This is a different one here. Look.
Okay.
You can kind of see the fire.
It's not really fire. It was the sparks from the ground on the tail of the plane. See that? Look at that again. You'll see it starts right now when it hits the ground.
Oh yeah, and then maybe a little bit.
Maybe just a little bit, but not really. The plane itself didn't go on fire. The friction caused the fire. And probably, as you say, muted by the ice on the ground.
Yeah.
So now take a look there and look at the plane probably a couple minutes later, because people are still running away from it. Look. It's intact.
Amazing that they were fine.
Look, it's intact, not on fire. And also, it's amazing that they weren't, some of them weren't killed with their heads, or I guess they all had their seatbelts on.
Yeah, I guess that's a.
But you would have
Endorsement
banged, you'd have
is-
banged your head against the top of the plane if you weren't, right? I mean,
I always say, "Oh, I don't need my seatbelt."
I
or,
know.
you
I might change my mind about that. Sometimes I get so lazy, I don't put it back on, and I usually get caught. But sometimes I don't get caught, and it's really ridiculous. You should always have it on.
And like getting up to like go to the restroom during the taxi and takeoff, I'm like, I'm fine. Like I got balance.
Imagine if you were in the restroom instead of in a seat, you probably would have been killed. Maybe,
Yeah,
maybe.
or
Well,
in some
you've
of the
been turned around on your head.
Some of the crashes, you might be saved.
Yeah, but you'd be turned around on your head, right? So you're in the plane, and it turns over this way.
That'd be kind of gross too.
Well, I guess we'll find out how it happened and why it happened. A detailed explanation of it. It has something to do, obviously, with the landing gear not working, right? It looks like the belly hit the tarmac. That's what caused. That's probably what that scraping along caused the flame, not a fire, as we originally thought.
Well,
when
a
you
lot
first
of
hit.
lefty lunatics are saying that it's because of Trump.
Oh, of course it's because of Trump.
This Canadian plane
The-
crash.
Yeah, the Canadians have lost all morale now because of Trump. So they crash planes into the run.
It was down on themselves.
Yeah, or the attack on the FAA.
It's like a hunger strike a little bit, where you
Yeah,
hurt
yeah,
yourself to hurt others.
yeah. And they did it to send a message to Minnesota. Except somebody should tell them that they didn't vote for Trump. This came from Minneapolis, from a place that didn't vote for Trump, into a place that everybody's angry at Trump.
That's two cold places. One, you're leaving. A cold
Sounds to
place
me
and
like
going to
this may
cold
be a
place.
Biden situation, not a Trump. Comes from a Biden state to a place that boos our hockey players, and the hockey players beat them 3-1 after the Tachuk brothers got their pound of flesh. I think their father was a New York Ranger, or grandfather maybe.
What's the name of the guys?
Brad and somebody else, Tachuk.
How do you spell it?
TKACUC.
Is it the Chuck?
Yeah,
Keep the Chuck?
yeah.
Yeah. He was one of the greats. I didn't know he was already that old that he has kids in the.
Oh no! I think his father was a hockey player too.
Oh, okay. Wow. It's in the
I'm
blood
gonna-
for a lot of them.
Yeah. So we'll see what happens with Ukraine. Russia says it's not going to give any territory back. Probably they will. I think the more important thing is how do you secure Ukraine's freedom, and how do you secure its safety, and without making them part of NATO, which would lead to another war, I guess, or it would lead to war should Russia go beyond what it had. I mean, it's hard to know how the NATO treaty would apply, since they've already presumably taken what they wanted, although maybe not all of it. But it seems to me that the negotiation is going to be around security for the country. I think the president's suggestion to them, I know it sounds like a very, very selfish one, but isn't it a really smart one? And that is that America should be given a large percentage. He suggests 50% of the resources. It's a little ill-defined as to what resources, oil, gas, whatever, but the resources of Ukraine as reparations for the enormous amount of money we've given them already, and as assurance that we'll give them more in the future.
And this is from President Trump's earlier press conference about Ukraine.
I believe $350 billion, but let's say it's something less than that, but it's a lot. And we have to equalize with Europe, because Europe has given us given a very much smaller percentage than that. I think Europe has given 100 billion, and we've given, let's say, 300 plus. And it's more important for them than it is for us. We have an ocean in between, and they don't. But where is all the money that's been given? Where is it going? I've never seen an accounting of it. We give hundreds of billions of.
Well, part of it that is not emphasized, which is of interest to me, is he wants to set up a sovereign wealth fund with Ukraine. Now, what a great idea for a country that really doesn't understand finance or economics. I mean, it is, look, it's one of the most corrupt countries in the world. I'd be less than honest if I didn't tell you that. And of course, I wouldn't be less than honest. And it
It's like
remains.
going into business with Bernie Madoff.
And it hasn't changed. Zelensky, whatever else you think of him, is the product of one of the major crooks, organized criminals, money launderers in Ukrainian history, Kolomoisky. And plus, he's sitting on incredible amounts of evidence against all of his predecessor's administration. Amounts of money that they stole, by the way, which if he recouped, he wouldn't need the United States, which we should have insisted he recoup. And of course, nobody knows the story better than Donald J. Trump or me. So if they could get into a sovereign wealth fund with the United States, guided by our rules and our oversight, which Biden would never do for the money that was sent there. I mean, the little guy, Zelensky, says that 100 million never even got there. Well, I don't know why he's saying it now. Where the hell did it go, Zelensky? It went somewhere. So a sovereign wealth fund could mean, let's say they did give 50% of a large portion of their resources to the U.S., 50%. That 50% could be worth 200%. If it were invested wisely and intelligently and sensibly and honestly. And the only way they're going to get a chance to do that is if they're in, we would be like business partners. It would also give us much more of a stake in protecting them, because they're on the outer fringes of what is critical to us. I know people say, well, if Russia wins there, they'll win, et cetera, et cetera. That's not necessarily true. It's not necessarily true. Ukraine is not Poland. Ukraine isn't even Latvia and Lithuania and Estonia. They were not parts of Russia. They were parts of the Soviet Union. Ukraine, Russia considered part of Russia. Not all of Ukraine, but half of Ukraine did. Half of Ukraine considered it an independent country before all this happened. Now the numbers in Ukraine have changed, and they've changed dramatically with the additions that Russia has made. But you're just listening to a bunch of neocon bullshit if you say, well, they're taking Ukraine is the same thing as they're taking Lithuania or Poland. It's wrong, and they shouldn't do it. But in terms of our national interests, it changes. Taiwan, for example, is a heck of a lot more in our national interest than any of that. And that's because of the chips. They're not just chips, they're the chips. Whoever has those chips could very well control the world through artificial intelligence and high level, way beyond my comprehension computing. Well, I hope that things are going well for you. I hope that this set of conferences, both in Saudi Arabia with regard to Ukraine and what we're doing in the Middle East, leads to some real peace and security for the people of Ukraine. They deserve it. They've been put through hell, and would never have happened if Biden hadn't been elected. And to the people of Israel, who also went through hell because of America having become not America for quite some time, 4 years. And let's pray for the people of Iran, who we don't want to leave out. I mean, they may be our most immediate threat. The country of Iran that wants to go nuclear, which sooner or later has just got to be stopped, and hopefully sooner. And pray for our president. It is a difficult time, and we need his kind of strong leadership. And so far, the people that he's appointed have really shown up really, really strong. We mentioned a few of them tonight, not all, but it's really amazing. This is a very, very powerful, very good administration, very pro-American, very pro-freedom. So we'll be back tomorrow night, 7 on X, of course. We're always on X at 7 and 8. We're also on
Lindell TV
Lindell.
at 7.
Oh, right, Lindell TV. How can I forget my friend Lindell TV? Lindell TV at 7. See, it gets me confused because we're on X for both, right?
Oh yeah, X is the platform.
So we're on X for both. We're on Lindell TV 7 to 8. We're on X and then every other social platform you can think of at 8 to 9. And too many important things are going on not to keep up with them and not to hear the rest of it that you're not told, because we do suffer still from censorship in this country. Let's break it up. And we owe that a lot to Elon Musk and the president and to all the people that do broadcasts like I do, of which there are many, not just me. So God bless you and God bless America. It's our purpose to bring to bear the principle of common sense and rational discussion to the issues of our day. America was created at a time of great turmoil, tremendous disagreements, anger, hatred. There was a book written in 1776 that guided much of the discipline of thinking that brought to us the discovery of our freedoms, of our God-given freedoms. It was Thomas Paine's Common Sense, written in 1776, one of the first American bestsellers, in which Thomas Paine explained, by rational principles, the reason why these small colonies felt the necessity to separate from the Kingdom of Great Britain and the King of England. He explained their inherent desire for liberty, for freedom, freedom of religion, freedom of speech, the ability to select the people who govern them. And he explained it in ways that were understandable to all the people, not just the elite. Because the desire for freedom is universal. The desire for freedom adheres in the human mind, and it is part of the human soul. This is exactly the time we should consult our history. Look at what we've done in the past and see if we can't use it to help us now. We understand that our founders created the greatest country in the history of the world, the greatest democracy, the freest country, a country that has taken more people out of poverty than any country ever. All of us are so fortunate to be Americans. But a great deal of the reason for America's constant ability to self-improve